Hello everyone, my name is Dmitry, and in the last video we talked about how Hungary abandoned socialism and became a democratic country. In the same video I want to tell you about what happened to Hungary in the 90s until joining the European Union. I will leave a link to more detailed information in the description. Hungary is a rare example of transformations in the countries of the former socialist camp. Economic reforms in the country did not begin in the 90s or even in the late 80s, as happened in some countries of the region. The first quasi-market reforms in the country were carried out back in 1968, touching only a few moments of state regulation of the economy. However, even these changes are enough to understand the special position of Hungary in the bloc. In the same year, Soviet troops severely suppressed protests in Czechoslovakia. At the end of the 80s, the government was dominated by a team of technocrats who were indifferent to the ideological component of the regime, which gave Hungary the opportunity to pass the stage that caused serious problems in neighboring relatively painlessly. The new government elected in the first three elections actually continued the program of its predecessors. Among the priorities of the state were five main goals. The first, liberalization of economic process and deregulation. Second, privatization and reduction of the public sector in comparison with the private sector, creating conditions for small and medium-sized businesses. Third, optimization of the state budget through reduction of public expenditures. First of all, it was about a large-scale reduction of subsidies to unprofitable enterprises. Fourth, change in the regional structure of foreign trade in favor of Western European countries, as well as participation in the free trade area with the European Union. Fifth, attracting investments to the country, creating a favorable investment climate. The processes of liberalization had a dual character. On the one hand, most of the prices were liberalized almost immediately in 1990. Considerable progress has also been made on import issues. However, some areas of the economy remained under the guidance and support of the state for decades. Privatization issues were moving much faster. By 1994, about 30% of the enterprises were in the hands of private owners from Hungary, and another 20% were owned by foreign investors. By 1998, almost all state-owned enterprises had been privatized. Significant progress has also been made in reducing the rate of inflation, which gradually declined throughout the 90s, with the exception of the crisis of 1995. In the period up to 1994, the decline in production was stopped, and since 1997, its significant and uniform growth has begun. Despite the improvement of statistical indicators, the country was experiencing both political and economic crises. The population turned out to be insufficiently prepared for the transition to a market economy. Unemployment began to rise. In parallel, the standard of living of most citizens has fallen, real incomes have decreased. All this led to discontent with the government among the electorate, and in the elections in 1994 opposition socialists came to power. The latter united a more left wing, which considers it necessary to raise the standard of living for the population, as well as a liberal one focused on neoliberal reforms. Under the pressure of circumstances and the threat of financial collapse, the liberal wing won, and a coalition was formed with the liberals in parliament. To prevent an economic crisis, the government adopted a series of radical austerity measures called the Bokrosh Plan, named after the Minister of Finance of that time, Bokrosh. The main points of the plan were the devaluation of the forint as well as a reduction of the social benefits. Against the background of a slight increase in salaries in the public sector, real incomes of citizens decreased. In addition, the plan assumed the acceleration of privatization. As in other similar situations, shock therapy was perceived extremely negatively by the population, causing large-scale protest and even the resignation of three ministers. Nevertheless, despite the negative short-term effect and the fall in real incomes of the population, it was the Bokrosh Plan that gave Hungary the opportunity for long-term economic growth since the 90s and early noughties. As a result of successful reforms in the early 90s, during the negotiation on joining the European Union in 1998, Hungary was among the leaders in the region. A referendum on Hungary's accession to the European Union was held on April 12, 2003. With a turnout of 45%, the overwhelming majority of those who voted, more than 80%, supported the entry of Republic of Hungary into the European Union. On May 1st, 2004, taking into account the results of the referendum, Hungary officially joined the European Union.